Olivia. Hello.
Hi, it's Mary Grace. How are you?
Hey, Mary Grace. It's Colleen. I don't know
Hi,
if
Colleen. I know
Olivia.
that. Okay. Olivia
I
just
think
had
they
just
can hear us.
texted me.
Did you guys hear? Mary Grace, Colleen?
Yeah, Olivia, can
Olivia.
you hear us?
We can hear you guys just fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Colleen, how are you feeling?
Much better. Much better. Gonna survive.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes.
Good. All right.
Yes.
So
So
we'll just
Olivia.
put this on mute.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn off my microphone for a few minutes.
And then, do you just want us to mute ourselves until they want us to talk, or how do you want to do this, Olivia? Maybe not.
Maybe when she muted her mic, she can't hear us now.
Oh, good point. All right. Well,
I mean, what she
on
had
mute
said
and
to me at
wait.
one point was just, yeah, just muted. I was going to, mute it and then just watch the thing on YouTube so we'd have a sense of what was going on.
Yes.
Although
I
we
pulled up
probably
YouTube
don't even
also.
need to do that. Yeah.
Okay,
Because they're probably
sounds
just
good.
now
So
going.
go on mute.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be on mute, and then if they need anything, they'll let us know.
Yeah.
All righty.
Exactly.
Take care, Colleen. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Hello, hello.
Okay, so we just muted ourselves. I unmuted for a minute, and then you can call us in when you need us.
Olivia, we see your text, or I see your text about projecting if we need to speak. Can you hear us in the main conference?
Okay, we're going to call it up and use the order. We're going to sing the pledge. Ask Mr. Thomas to lead us in the pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with the Finance Committee. Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you. I call to order the Juvenile Welfare Board Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, December 18th. We have one action item to approve the Finance Committee Auditor Selection Committee minutes from November 13th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Unks, second by Mr. Bartlett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay, we'll call the Juvenile Welfare Board meeting for Thursday, December 18th to order. Our first item is the consent agenda. I have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we're going to move up our one presentation before action items here. I'm going to ask Mr. McCurrick, our CEO, to give us the presentation on the Parent Protect implementation. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. 2 Mondays ago, we actually had the opportunity, the sheriff called a press conference for us to present our working relationship with Parent Protect. All TV stations actually appeared. Superintendent Hendricks was presenting, as well as myself, the sheriff, and Parent Pro Tech Ashby Green had the opportunity to speak to the community. It's very clear that the efforts that we're doing in this space are well received. We are getting, and if you can shift to the next slide. We've gotten legislation endorsements from Senator Moody, Senator Scott, Senator Bill Arakis, which was a video you'll get to see. You can see online. Representative Castor, who's sent a letter and is actually staying very close to this, as well as I actually have a meeting, a Teams meeting with her tomorrow. And U.S. Representative Anna Luna sent a video. Can we key up that video?
Protecting our children from cybercrimes, online predators, and human trafficking is one of the most important responsibilities we have as a community. Every day, dangerous predators use the internet to target our innocent, vulnerable children. Parents deserve support to keep their families safe, which is exactly why I am grateful for JWB's leadership and for the Sheriff's Office for stepping up to host this training. When law enforcement, parents, and federal partners work together, we stop predators before they can harm a child. My office will continue to be a strong voice on this issue, and we will always stand with those fighting to protect Florida's children. Thank you, and God bless.
We have had a great reception so far with this whole program. On Monday, we had a webinar with Parent Pro Tech. Over 125 people actually participated with some great questions. We are now well over 200 that have already applied to this, and recently the superintendent sent out an email and video to the school systems. We have a full marketing plan that's set to reach both public, private, church-based programs, and other programs across Kiwanis clubs and the like across Pinellas County to get this message out. Clearly, it's an extremely important one, especially now since children are out on break. And an average time, for example, has been between 8 and 11 hours a day that a child's on their phone. And that's not counting now that they're out on school break. So it's incredibly important that we continue to push this program and to help parents help them protect their children and keep them safe online. I'd also just like to add a couple of other things. I will have to be leaving early today, as I've got 2 interviews with WFLA on the day show, as well as on Bloom to present Parent Pro Tech. And we've got numerous others, both TV over the next few weeks, as well as print ads and the like. So I'll leave my report for you, my 180-day report for your review. If everyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and ask for any clarifications. Secondly, what I'd like to do is just at your desk, you also, or at your chair, you also had a SPFC, they're called Sustained Proposal for your review. Clearly, what the St. Pete Free Clinic has done is they've purchased a building. They are going to expand their role in support of the families of Pinellas County. They're not asking for money. What they're asking for is for JWB to continue their support, to provide acts to allow them to use our name. They understand that our contracts are year by year, so there's no funds that can be pledged anywhere after what they already have today. But clearly, it's a request that they continue to be able to use our name as a partner in their programs. So that's for your review. We can bring it up if it needs to be an action item. It can be brought up at the next meeting in January.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on back to our action items. Our first action item is the approval of the removal of surplus and obsolete equipment with Laura Peel, our CIO.
Yep, good morning. JWB evaluates its equipment every 6 months to determine its usefulness and to make sure it meets the needs of JWB. As listed in our statute, we're required to present to the board for approval either recyclable items or items we want to dispose of, or if they're useful, items that we no longer need but may be useful to someone else, and we donate to, per the statute, to a 501c3, we have decided to donate to our funded agencies. The list that's attached is what is up for surplus removal at this time. You'll notice that there are a lot of monitors on there, more than usual. As we're coming back to the building, we started evaluating the equipment here, and most of the monitors are from 13, 14, or 15, quite old, and don't have the display that really meets our needs. So many of them have been replaced. Otherwise, the only other one that may look, you may have questions about is the Dell laptops. They're newer. They were actually received from a funded agency that we are no longer funding. We had paid for those and we received them back. They don't really meet the needs for JWB, but we will be donating them to a funded agency. Any questions?
All right, seeing none, accept the motion.
Move approval?
Second? All right, all in favor? Or any discussion? All in favor? Aye? Any
Thank you so
opposed?
much.
Motion carries. All right, and I should have said this again, but I do have a hard stop at 10:30. I know Mr. McCurrick needs to leave, and several of our board members have to leave a little earlier than that, but we'll try to get through the agenda the best we can. All right, next action item is the approve the budget amendment for Family Resource Youth Empowerment Program with Karen Burgess, our COO.
Good morning, Karen Burgess, Chief Operating Officer. I'm going to read the recommended action first. Request approval for a fiscal year 26 budget amendment in the amount of $81,148 for the relocation of one of Family Resources Empowerment Program sites. A Family Resources Youth Empowerment Program is an after-school and summer program serving youth ages 6 through 14. And they have two site locations, one in St. Petersburg and one was in Pinellas Park at the Skyview location. In September, the program was informed that Pinellas Park needed that site back and needed to find an alternative location. And so they engaged us. We worked with Pinellas County Schools and found an alternative location. It's 4 miles away from the current site. The site serves 58 families. We were informed by Family Resources that most of the families will be transitioning over. The site also is a bigger site, so there's potentially room to serve even more youth in that area. And so the total dollar amount again for this fiscal year is a little over $81,000. It includes move-in costs as well as operating costs. And just to remind everyone that this is a summer also operating program, which operates 5 days a week, full days for 10 weeks. Andy Cobble is here, their Family Resources Chief Operating Officer, if we have any questions.
Any questions for Karen? All right, seeing none, accept the motion.
So moved.
Okay, motion is second. Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next item is the approval for the Nonprofit Leadership Center, NLC Training Center Agreement with April, our Director of Strategic Communications.
Good morning. We're here today to request approval of the Nonprofit Leadership Training Catalog Agreement, and this aligns with our strategic result area for organizational capacity, and specifically Strategy 6.3, which calls for us to provide professional development opportunities to our staff and staff of our funded programs. We began contracting with NLC in 2022. They are a trusted regional nonprofit capacity building provider, and they provide comprehensive and relevant trainings across the region. Our contract, NLC provides JWB with a negotiated rate structure for trainings offered through their catalog. And in turn, we offer staff the opportunity to request and attend these trainings at no cost. The training durations and rates will vary course by course. So I'll give you an example. The Certificate in Grant Writing Series is 16 hours. It's offered at an hourly rate of $36, but that provides a regionally recognized certification. So in other words, when they get done with the trainings, they're able to not only have that certification, but many have gone on to diversify funds and raise money for their programs and organizations. JWB oversees the request and approval process. We promote the new trainings when they're offered through the catalog, and we administer evaluation surveys along with NLC. Our program utilization rates have increased over time, and evaluation results consistently demonstrate that this program is effective. For example, last year, well over 90% of participants agreed that they gain new knowledge that's going to help them do better in their jobs. They increased confidence and leadership skills, and they learned practical tools they can use on the job. JWB-funded program staff also reported they secured new grants and received promotions as a result of leadership training that they received. The target audience also expanded over time, so now we also include and allow training requests from our community council members. NLC has been an amazing partner. Charlie Imbergamo is here with us today. He's their CEO, and we enjoy working with their team. They are very responsive, proactive with their solutions, and we've done other custom training and coaching services with them as well. I wanted to remind the board that this request is budget neutral. It's a line item in our budget for FY26. It allows for 4 additional one-year renewals upon mutual agreement. The annual cost is not to exceed $49,500, and then we have a request for a 5-year total not to exceed of $247,500. So that would be over a total of 5 years. So at this time, we request approval of the NLC training catalog agreement.
Sure, go ahead.
We've been talking to Charlie about upcoming events that we want to be able to have. We're planning on in early January to have a NFC roundtable with all the CEOs to talk about their issues, to talk about and understand better about anything that they need help with. We've asked Charlie to participate and support that and this is part of the proposal. We'll be doing this with our agencies, all our other agencies as well. We'll be setting up another set of meetings to do the same. We just want to ensure that our agencies and our NFCs have the opportunity to utilize the skills and knowledge that Charlie and his team bring to the table, and that they can help them, whether it be board development, understanding about funding, and how to go about fundraising, and other elements that could be very beneficial to them going forward. So I very much support this effort.
Any questions for April? Robbie?
Just a point of clarification. So this is a planned budget expenditure. It's not necessarily budget neutral. There's not an increase to the spend, though.
Good.
I just wanted to applaud your efforts in this. I think it's incredibly important to support the organizations that we're funding so that they have a good guideline. And I've always said that JWB is really the standard on how to run an organization. And I think it's great to disseminate that information to some other organizations that may not be as familiar with how to run an organization, board meetings, how that happens. So I applaud your efforts in this area. I think it's as important as the dollars are to understand how to correctly run an organization with transparency and to do it the right way. So thank you for the efforts on this.
Thank you, Ms. Mallow.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll take a motion to accept.
Move to accept.
Second, all right. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our last consent item is the approval of the CEO search process. At the last meeting, we approved that we would move forward with the CEO search process and JWB would accept applications directly. At that point, the things that we need to talk about today from the last meeting was the profile, the timeline, how it's going to take place, who we're going to use for the background research that needs to be done on each of the candidates as well. Those are things that were left open at the last meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Grace and Colleen to kind of lead from here.
Thank you,
Hi,
Chief. This is
Colleen,
Mary Grace.
And great. Mary Grace, do you want to go ahead and take the lead?
Sure. I'm sorry that we're both need to be on the phone today. I know that makes it a little more difficult for everyone. Yes, as the Chief said, I mean, you basically have 4 decisions to make today. You know, one is, are you satisfied with the draft job description and posting description that you received? So those 2 things. Secondly, the period of posting, which we have on the timeline, would actually begin tomorrow, the 18th of December, and would close on January 7th. So that's another very specific part of the timeline. I will say that IT is all set up to post this tomorrow and to start receiving applications with that. And then the next thing that you would need to think about is, are you okay with the timeline that has you at your next meeting, which is January 20th, selecting those individuals that you would like to interview, at least initially. So in the meantime, there's obviously work that needs to be done to get you from the posting to your decision. But those are really the key things that you need to decide today. Colleen and I have, in the board memo, attached all of the documents that you would need to review. Hopefully you've had a chance to see them. And obviously, if there's anything that you need changed or want changed, we can do that before the posting occurs.
Chief, would it be possible to pull up the timeline from the board packet and put it on the screen just so we can all see it?
Can we do that?
Sorry, that would be visual learner.
I'm going to take the easy one, Chair, if I may. I'd move to approve the drafting of the job description.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second
No.
on the job description?
Nope. Sorry. We're talking about the job description?
Right.
I have several edits I'd like to see happen. Some of the things that were changed from the prior one I noticed is there's a salary range listed on this one where the previous one said TBD depending on experience. I think we need to roll back to that language. I also take issue with the amount of salary for this particular position personally, but I think that's something that we can talk about later during the interview process, as long as we could just change this back to TBD. Another edit I would like to see is under the additional requirements, it lists resides in the Tampa Bay area. I'm not sure why that's there when throughout the position profile and even under working conditions, it says, you know, if the person who's hired will obviously have to be physically present in the building and on other sites in Pinellas County. I think it goes without saying that whoever gets hired is going to need to live here to effectively do the job. So I feel like that's going to have a chilling effect for potential qualified candidates from applying if they don't actually reside here right now. It might be misinterpreted that means you have to already live here to apply for the position, and I don't think that that's what we intend to do. So I just want to, I would just recommend that we strike that entirely. And then the third thing I would like to see is throughout the position profile, it talks over and over about wanting the person to have either experience or in-depth knowledge of independent special districts. I realize that under specifications it says highly desirable. I don't mind it being stated once, but then it's kind of hammered over and over throughout the position profile. And again, I feel like there's going to be candidates out there that are very qualified who have either run nonprofits or corporate, who knows where these candidates might be coming from. They might not have specifically independent special district experience, but that doesn't mean that they can't learn it and be very effective. And I think that that's going to have a chilling effect for getting, more candidates and providing them the opportunity to apply and compete for this role. So those are the edits that I would like to see to the position profile, and then also, same suggestion for the, the ad or whatever, the job specification that would go out.
Okay, well, I would disagree on the living arrangements. Pretty much every job that I've seen out there, somewhere requires you to live in the county. Any city manager is required to live in their city. Mayors are required to live in there. People are required to live where they work at. So I would disagree with that. And I would also disagree with the special district part. It's pretty important that you understand how an independent special district works if you're gonna work for one. It's not something that you're gonna learn while you're learning JWB at the same time. That's putting a pretty heavy load on that one person to try to learn everything at once. Special district is, an independent special district is extremely different than running another nonprofit organization or a city or a county. As a matter of fact, it's a completely different state law, different statutes. You gotta understand the 189 statute, you gotta understand the statutes that apply to a JWB as well. Those things are required for you to know what JWB is capable of doing and not capable of doing legally throughout the Florida statutes. So those two things, those are only the two things I really have an issue with. I mean, salary range, most jobs have salary ranges as well. You know, you hire somebody new in a chief position, CEO position, generally there's a salary range, and you use that range to base on what their experience is. So whether you're gonna start them at the beginning or you're gonna start them in the middle or maybe at the top, depending on who you hire. But just my opinion on that.
So just point of clarification, when you mentioned the person is expected to reside in the area where they work, and you gave examples there, I agree with that. Whoever is hired would obviously be expected to reside in the area, but I don't see why that would need to be a requirement prior to applying for the role.
I don't think it's a requirement prior, it's a requirement if you get the job that you have to live here. That's how I read it. Yeah, I read it as a requirement when you get the job, you must live here.
Yeah, I feel like that might be misinterpreted by people, and therefore it would have a chilling effect on them applying.
I'm sure they could just add some clarifying language on that.
So maybe we just
That
need
would
to
help as well.
specify
Yes.
that the applicant, the successful applicant needs to be willing to relocate or reside in the Tampa Bay area.
That would be fine.
Okay, that's fine with me.
As far as the salary is concerned,
This is Colleen, we can make that change.
as far as the salary is
Yeah,
concerned,
I think we can simply say once employed, comma, resides in Tampa Bay area. Yeah.
as far as the salary is concerned, I think it's very important for anyone that is applying for this job to know what he or she is applying for. Because if you tell me to be determined and I'm willing to walk away from something that one may be more of a financial benefit to me, I need to know before I put all of my eggs into this basket. We can do the range, but TBD does not settle well in my soul. I think if we want quality people to apply, if we're gonna be transparent, let's be transparent about everything. Let's be transparent about the qualifications, let's be transparent about the salary. Let's just keep everything above board at this point. And so I totally think that we need to keep it on there.
So I think that that's fair, so then it leads me to talking about that now, as opposed to another time. I do think that for this organization, that's a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money going to lead the organization. By way of comparison, Mr. Kevin Hendrick, who is the superintendent of the school system, has a $1.7 billion operating budget and supervises 14,000 employees, both full-time and part-time. That's kind of a picture of a very large organization, where JWB has an operating budget of 156 million, not billion, and 91 staff, which is really more in line with just slightly larger than a small organization. Kevin makes $300,000 a year, and this position is listing between 2 and 245, which I think is a little bit high. I'd like to see that reduced maybe down to around 180 range.
So just a cap on that, because prior to you being on the board, we did do salary comparisons amongst the other juvenile welfare boards across the state of Florida, and we are at the average of what the other ones came out when we came back to that. Commissioner Laval.
On that note, some of our funding agencies, CEOs make more than what our current CEO makes, and they have budgets that are less than ours. For instance, the former CEO of Suncoast made more than what our current and former CEO makes. And there are other funding agencies that make more than what our current CEO makes. And so I think that's a very slippery slope. And there are tons of nonprofits in Pinellas County whose CEO, well, I shouldn't say tons, but there are several nonprofits in Pinellas County whose CEOs make more than what our current CEO makes, who receive government funding.
Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Or we have some motion. I don't think we have a second.
Real quick, Was there any objection to reducing, I just didn't hear discussion on this point that I brought up. So I think we are going to revise the language regarding needs to live in the Tampa Bay area once the person is hired for the position. But when we were talking about the independent special district language, I know you disagreed with me, Chief Milliken, but I just wanted to see if there was discussion from any rest of the board so that we know what Mary Jane and Colleen are changing and what they aren't.
Sure, Mr. Hendrick.
Yeah, I think the independent district language is fine on my behalf. I think the salary is fine. As it relates to the Tampa Bay area, should it not be Pinellas? All of your examples were specific to the municipality or
Right.
location, not, Pasco County, but Pinellas.
Correct. I agree with you on that.
The only reason I would say maybe Tampa Bay area is if we do hire someone who doesn't live here currently, it might be difficult for them to find housing in Pinellas like immediately. So I've seen in some situations where like city charters require the city manager to live in a city, but that city manager can't necessarily afford to move to the city the next day. They've got to take 6 months or a year. So I'm okay with making it Tampa Bay area just for the chance that we might hire someone who doesn't live here.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I'm wondering if we could add to the first line that has key responsibilities on the comprehensive plan. I think that as we're planning to do with board input and such for the comprehensive plan next month, that we should add some sort of language in there that includes, board input. We don't expect someone to just do a comprehensive plan on their own.
That's a good point. That's a
Okay,
good point.
thank
I think it usually comes back to the board as well, but, they
I
do
know it's
input.
obvious, but just
Yeah.
for the random person reading this.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so Ms. Malo, would you like to redo your
So-
motion with the changes, or?
Just accept the changes.
Well, I don't know what changes were.
So the changes were, I think the changes was,
So I will withdraw my motion. If she wants to make a motion to change it, then I'll withdraw my motion, and she wants to make a motion to make changes, because my motion was to accept it as it is.
okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the job description with the revised language regarding the successful applicant will be expected to live in the Tampa Bay area, adding board input to the comprehensive plan description, and I believe that was it.
Yes, okay. So we have a motion on the floor with the changes,
I'll second that motion.
second by Ms. Malo. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So back to you, Mary Grace and Colleen. We have a change on that description. Hopefully you heard that, and we'll go to the next step with you guys.
Yes. And we'll make sure that the two
So
documents are consistent.
Right. So we'll make
Go ahead,
those
Colleen.
changes to both the position description and the job posting.
Right.
So
So then the next piece are timeline issues. So, and I see that somebody was able to post this. So did
we
you
need
all,
to-
if we could go back to the top,
So we need to vote on the timeline next.
yeah. So specifically on the timeline, we have the posting being released tomorrow and closing on January 7th. So that's just about 2 weeks, a little bit longer because of the holiday.
Yeah, I think that's what the board
The
requested.
things that preceded your vote are really internal things that have to happen regardless of when you decide to post it. And they're taken care of, so you can put any date in there at all. But what's on this timeline right now is having the posting released tomorrow, and then the job posting closing on January 7th.
I've moved to accept the timeline for the job posting, and then we can talk about the rest of the timeline. But I'd move to accept the job posting starting tomorrow and ending on January 7th.
Do we want to break up that timeline? I mean, is it, Colleen, do you want to break up the timeline, or do you want us to have a motion to accept the entire timeline?
I think it might be easier. We could go through and make any revisions needed and then take one motion to accept a revised timeline if there
Right.
are any revisions that you guys want.
Are you okay with that withdrawal motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and hit the rest of the timeline, then come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Some of those timelines, though, are dependent on when the posting occurs. So if we can, at least during
So
this
we're good with the
discussion,
posting part.
assume, yeah, so if the opening and closing dates are in fact what's listed there, then we can look at the remainder of it with that. So assuming those dates, then the closing would be on January 7th. On the 9th, you would receive hard copies of the resumes. We made the assumption that you would prefer to have hard copies as opposed to having all of this emailed to you as documents.
Yes.
Yes.
So the copying would occur as resumes come in, so that by the 7th, when it closes, they just have to copy whatever has come in the last day or two. On the 9th, they will be delivered to your homes. And then you will have an opportunity between the 9th and the 15th to read those resumes, the cover letters, whatever else people send with it, and select up to 5 candidates that you would like to have considered for interviewing. You would then, on the 16th, by the 16th, send that list to me, and then I will compile a list of all of the candidates that have gotten votes from the board with the number of recommendations or votes that you that were attached to those, so that and you'll get that by the 20th. I don't think that will take me very long. If everybody can get their things into me, I can turn it around pretty quickly. So no later than the 20th you would get it. Then your next meeting is on the 22nd. And at that meeting, you would be able to discuss the list and vote on up to, we are suggesting a limit of 5. You can obviously make that fewer or greater, but we want to be in the ballpark of about 5 candidates that you would want to have an initial interview with. And then we need to have some conversation about how you want to do those interviews. I think you could do them at a board meeting. We could have a separate meeting of the board. You could try to do them all individually, although I think that gets pretty confusing at that point in the game. And I will provide you with some sample interview questions. You don't have to use them all, but legally, you really need to be asking similar questions to each candidate, so that once you make your selection, a candidate's not going to be able to come back and say to you, well, they asked me different questions than everybody else, so it wasn't a fair decision. So we want to be sure that, there's nothing in that process that's going to create problems down the road. Once you have your final candidates, then the background checks, reference checks, et cetera, would be done. Today, you're going to vote on hiring the vendor, whether you want to hire that vendor or somebody else to do that. And then the thought was the final interviews could be conducted between March 18th and April 23rd, which is another one of your board meetings. And at that board meeting, you can formally vote on a candidate, and then someone from the board and Colleen would negotiate the contract with whomever is selected.
Okay, thank you. So we'll check a motion.
So,
I have a concern. I feel like the second half of this timeline is kind of where things fall apart, because I believe we were trying to have the new CEO selected prior to the ending of the interim CEO's contract, which means I believe Colleen isn't at the end of March. You said last meeting?
Yeah, it is. You're
End of March.
correct.
Yes.
So the question I wanted to pose to you, to Colleen and Mary Jane is, Mary Grace, sorry, thank you. is this timeline built out expecting 5 candidates? And if we reduced that just to the top 3, would that help contract this part of the timeline to get it within that preferred timing?
So let me speak to that. So first of all, for the interim CEO contract, we can always extend it for 30, 60, 6 months, a year, whatever you guys want. We can legally make that work. The problem with interviews is that if you want to do them together with more than one board person, then we have to publicly notice them, and those interviews are in the sunshine. Otherwise, you can individually each interview the candidates, and those do not have to be in the sunshine or publicly noticed. It's difficult to schedule things with all 11 of you, either together or separate, which is why there is built in a bit of time to coordinate the schedules between your top choices and all of you. Is it possible to compress it? You know, possibly. And you know, we could try. We were just trying to not put too much pressure on you or the candidates, and to try to make certain that you all had ample time to interview your top choices.
So if we do 3 and get the notice of the dates out there as early as possible so that it's noticed in plenty of time, would that be able to get us up into the March timeframe? So we would make the final decision at the March meeting.
I don't think that 3 or 5 makes a difference. The problem is the notification to getting in the paper is the problem.
Right.
So, getting all the notifications, that's where the problem is at. And the Tampa Bay Times only publishes on certain days now, so and it requires 14 days notice to get them to publish anything on top of that. I think the problem is the timeline of public noticing by statute is
Right.
where the issue comes in.
Which is why
3
more
or 5
is
doesn't
harder.
matter to me, but I think
Yeah.
the issue is getting noticed is the issue that she's having. And I certainly would recommend that we do a public interview with the entire board. We have nothing to hide. We're being transparent. There's no reason for us to be in private rooms interviewing people individually. We should have a public interview system. But that would require us making those timeline changes to get those notices out in time.
Couldn't we have like an interview day where we interview, 5, 7 people?
Yeah, we could set a date. Doesn't have to be on a board necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Then that would resolve my issue on the number if we were going for trying to do them all on the same day anyway, and that would condense the timeline.
I mean, your February board meeting is scheduled for February 19th, just FYI. So if on the 22nd you voted on 3, 5, whatever you vote on for the candidates, if you know in advance that you are willing to do a board, a full day, really, when you think about it, it's pretty much a full day out of your calendar to do 3 or 5 interviews. It could be on the 19th, it could be around that date. That could be noticed now. And then you can always not do it. But you really have to be able to commit that time. And then, which means that then on the 18th, you could, which is your next board meeting, you could select your final the candidates. You could do interviews of your final candidates.
Ms. Muller?
Yeah, so I would just renew my motion.
But it's very tight, and it doesn't allow a lot of
I'm used to being.
leeway. And as I said, I think Colleen and I both wanted to err on the side of not making this the Mission Impossible search, where the thing was going to explode if you didn't get it done in time. So.
Question from Ms. Rowland.
Yes, I have a question, Mary Grace. If we do choose a date in advance on what that interview date will be, could we put that on the notice? That this is the date for interviews. And if we choose that in advance, won't that sort of expedite things?
You mean with the candidate?
Yeah, let me speak to that. We could do that. I mean, I think what Ms. Rutland's asking is maybe in the job posting, we could say initial interviews are scheduled to occur on such and such a date. And I also, would just want clarification from Commissioner Latvala's suggestion. Would that be an interview with the group as a whole, so it would be sunshine noticed, or would you all be in separate rooms and it would be like a round robin outside of the sunshine interview process?
I was talking about a sunshine with the whole group.
Okay.
That way we can notice it now.
I would just ask that we do it on a Friday. We are in session after the 13th, so if we could do it on a Friday, that would be fantastic. So, we could set the dates now. I mean, that would certainly help with Ms. Chia's recommendation, trying to move it up a little bit. It's just a lot of work. Let's also keep in mind that everybody has a full-time job as well besides this board. So we do have other commitments as well. So let's not crunch it too hard where we can't, we won't have time to do our due diligence and read the paperwork thoroughly.
So Chief, I would renew my motion to accept the timeline. I think the interview date is a separate issue from the timeline and is not necessarily included in the timeline. So if someone wants to make a motion to set an interview date, I think that's separate than just approving this timeline. So my motion is to approve this timeline.
Okay, so
I would
So
like
motion
to
is second.
ask for an amendment to that we approve the timeline with the changes to the discussion that we've had.
What changes?
That we might condense the timeline based on having one interview day, et cetera, because that's not built into the timeline now. So I would just say, based on our discussion, I agree to, approve the timeline as long as those things are taken into consideration.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do you want to change your motion, Ms.
No,
Muller?
sir.
No. We have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The timeline is set. We'll work on the interview date.
That's what my next question was, is the interview date. Do we want to talk about that?
Can we set a date for the interviews?
I do think it's a good idea when we're advertising. I think that was a very good suggestion to put that in the advertisement as to what the date of the interview would be. I recognize that you are in Tallahassee. A lot of us hopefully will be in Tallahassee. And so I don't know if anybody, it's kind of hard to put everybody on notice right now.
We're closing
for
on the 9th, right? So they're getting distributed to us on the 9th. That's a Friday.
I'm free every Friday in February except for the 27th, which is the last Friday in February.
How about January? I think they're looking for a January date for interviews. You're gonna get all these back to you on the 9th, right?
No, I mean, you're not, I mean, if you select your 5 candidates on the 22nd, it would need to be,
Okay.
February. So I would say if you look at a February Friday, which it's the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, and the 27th are the 4 Fridays in
On the 22nd, if you do the 6th, that gives you 2
February.
weeks to look at it.
I'm good with the 6th, 13th, or 20th, whichever one y'all want.
I can't do the 13th, but
We have
6th and 20th is fine.
20th is best for me.
I can go with the 20th.
Oh, shit.
Of February?
So,
So let me jump in. This is Colleen. So if you interview on the 20th, the initial 5 people, that is actually after your 19th board meeting. And so then when would you want to come back and select the finalists? Because this is fitting into the same time frame that is on the initial draft, which would be selecting the final candidates at the March 18th board meeting.
okay, well, is everybody good with the 20th first? Let's make sure we're good with that.
I would move
20th
that
good?
we set it for the 20th.
I'm fine with that unless you wanted to do it on the 19th after our board meeting. I would be
Chief might
fine
not
with
be,
that.
are you gonna be here, Chief?
No, the 20th.
20th?
Yeah.
Okay, 20th.
Yeah,
So everybody's good with that?
Are you gonna be here on the 19th?
I'm gonna try to be here on 19th. Fridays are guaranteed. I can get back here.
Okay,
Thursdays
got
are
it.
not guaranteed. Really depends on what's happening, and we're talking about, we're at the end of the legislative term right there, so.
When we say it would be a full day, what time frame are we talking about during the day?
So, well, if you have, you need, I would say that you want to allow an hour for each interview. I mean, it may not take an hour, but let's say it takes 45 minutes. you want, you know,
9 to
you
1.
probably want to have just a very quick discussion. You want to have a chance to run to a restroom. So I would schedule them on the hour.
So 9 to 1.
So, you know,
About
it's
9 to
going to
1.
take you 3 to 5 hours to do the interviews. Colleen, the question I have for you is, would there be any issue, assuming people have time, to the day that they interview, let's say it's the 20th, that Friday, to spend an hour at the end, an hour and a half at the end of the interviews, selecting who then are their final interviewees?
So
That would be
and let me
perfectly
say,
appropriate if they wanted to.
okay, so
yeah, and because my feeling was the initial interviewees, if you have, particularly if you have people from outside of the area, you may want to do those via Zoom or Teams or something. And then your final interviews, you feel very strongly you should do in person.
I think we only need one interview.
one interview, I think they should be in person. We all agreed to the 20th. I think you should be here in person.
Okay.
And then Ms. Nage has commitments the
Okay.
morning of the 20th, so we would ask that maybe we could do the interviews from like, say, 11:30 on or noon on, something like that.
That's
Do
fine.
the afternoon for the interviews. So someone who is traveling out of town would have time to get here in the morning as well. That would actually work out for them.
So I'd adopt.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
That's on the 20th?
Yes.
On the 20th, yeah. So right now, we're in agreement with noon on the 20th until the interviews are over, so roughly noon to 5, if it takes us that long on that day.
Well, if you did an hour on each one, that gives you 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. So that would give you 5 interview. And then if you wanted to stay and talk about it, it might keep you there till 6 or 6:30.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that on the board? Everybody's good with that? So we're good with the 20th, we're good at noon. Okay, so we're good with those dates, Mary Grace, we're good with the 20th, we're good with starting at
Great.
noon.
All right, so we will change this.
So we adjust the
To
timeline
reflect
to
that.
just show that.
So I have a question. I believe I heard Mr. Onk saying just one interview. So are you compressing and not doing 2 interviews this time?
I don't see why we would need to do it. I'm just gonna say it. I'll be shocked if we have 3 qualified candidates.
Right.
I'll be absolutely shocked. So we're not gonna have 20 people that we're interviewing.
Right,
Like,
I think we should be able to do it in one shot, honestly. We're doing it as a group together, as individuals, we're gonna have the same consensus when we're done, so.
Yeah. And you have the option, if you decide you really need to bring 2 people back, you bring them back. I mean, we'll find a time and a way to do it.
All right, so we're good with our timeline, we're good with interview times, so we're past the interview at this point on our timeline. What's the next step at that?
The reference checking vendor.
Okay, so then we go to reference checking at that point, all right, and after the reference check takes, how long will that take, 30 days to get the references back? 15
No,
days?
15
I believe, I don't
Okay.
believe it's going to take, about
No,
30 days, yeah.
I think.
So, give them a couple days to get it done, 48 hours roughly?
No, I
I
think
give it
we
a
need to
week.
give the vendor, yeah.
Okay, and so we're looking at probably, get the calendar back up here. So we're looking at, references should be done by the 24th for sure, that's 2 business days, right? Because if we're done on the 20th, we know where we're at,
I'd give them till that Friday,
the 27th.
because you want, I mean, you really want, what you talked about at your last meeting was you want a very solid reference checking.
Right,
With-
okay.
Wouldn't we want the
So-
reference check done before the
Everything.
interview? Like, wouldn't that make sense?
It would make sense to me that they get
Yeah, why don't
done.
we just do, so if we're,
Once we accept the applicants, after
Yeah.
we choose our 5 as a board,
they should do. the
then those can
reference
go,
checks.
those could go to referencing right away. Good point, Mr. Unks.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to do that.
We can do that. We
Okay.
can do that. We had
Absolutely.
initially decided, put in just to reference check the finalists, but since we're compressing this to a 1-step as opposed to 2-step, once you decide the individuals whom you want to interview, we can have them complete the paperwork and have the reference checks done, or have the vendor conduct the reference checks prior to the.
So
meeting,
if
the
we're
interview.
completed by then, at the next board meeting, the 19th, we could actually make the hire, correct? Is that good with you, Ms. Chia?
Well, you
With,
wanted
it's
a
March
reference
18th.
check prior to February 20th.
We'd be able to hire
So,
Mark.
Brian, that was
the
your,
March meeting, that was my question.
your thought, right?
Correct.
Yeah, March 18th would be potentially the date that we could make a hire. That's right.
Yeah, 19th. 19th
Right.
is our board meeting.
Whenever, yeah.
Yeah,
March
yeah.
Whatever.
No. March 18th, I believe, is your board meeting. February
Wednesday?
19th is the board
Right,
meeting,
so-
and then,
Yeah, so Wednesday that in March.
yes.
Okay. All right. Throwing me off with a Wednesday meeting. Okay. All right, so we're set. So we have our timeline set. We're all the way to hire at the 18th. Okay, so we need a
Okay.
motion to accept the timeline with the changes.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Ungst. A second. Second, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are set with our CEO search process on that. I think the last thing was just to vote on the search company. Is that correct, Colleen?
Yes, so at the last meeting, we had discussed the robust background screening, reference checks. I believe Mr. Hendrick referenced the internet checks that some of these companies do. A staff member and I analyzed this. The three companies that you were looking at to potentially act as a search firm, one of the ones, MGT, will not provide services unless you do a whole search with them. SGR provides the services in the a brochure that was attached to your board packet. And so those are the services and the reference checks that they do. They have contractors that also do those. So you will see that what their background reports include. And the cost is set forth in your memo, and then the only additional cost for background screening would be the standard roughly $90 for a level 2 background screen that all employees must go through.
Okay, so really we have one company that does it. So we need a motion to accept that company and the cost as well to get the full background check that the board asked for at the last meeting.
Yes, and we would run these on everyone that you decide to interview, if that is your
I'll make a motion to accept the SGR proposal.
Okay, and we got a second, Mr. Hendrick. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have completed the CEO search process. Thank you, Mary Grace and Colleen, for helping us with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to our next presentation.
Chair, before the presentation, can I bring up a couple of quick issues for discussion that are not on the agenda?
Yeah,
Thank you. Hopefully these will be really quick. So it has come to my attention in the last meeting, there was a number of people here who wanted to speak on some of the issues that we were discussing, and the current process that we have in place really disenfranchised them, and they were not able to speak on those particular issues. So that when we were talking about the CEO search, there was a number of people in the audience who wanted to speak to that, but under Robert's Rules of Order, I looked into this. You know, your bylaws can be squishy on how exactly you use that. We had discussion. You can then open it up to public comment, which is what they were hoping for. That was skipped over and we went straight to the vote and had the vote. And then, as you all remember, there was some folks who Colleen called at the end who had signed up to speak at the public comments portion. And they also wanted to speak on that issue, but because the public comments portion's at the very end of the meeting, it really became a moot point after we had already pushed everything through a vote on the action item. So I'm just very concerned about public being able to have their opportunity to address the board, as well as it's a big hurdle for people to take time off work to come here and address us, and they usually have to wait all the way to the end of the meeting in order to do that. So I'd like to make a motion that we move the public comment section up just permanently on the agenda to be right below consent items, just so that public that comes to address anything has appropriate opportunity to do so.
okay, we have a motion.
I'd like to
On
hear
floor.
Colleen's thoughts on that.
Okay, Colleen?
She has dropped off the line. She just texted me. She's trying to get back in, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think technically, legally, we probably are supposed to take public comment on any motion, like anything that we vote on. But I'd like to hear what Colleen has to say
I
on
don't
that.
know, a lot of places, counties, districts as well, don't take comment on things that are on the agenda, but they do public comment either beginning of the meeting or the end of the meeting. Some are at the end, some are at the beginning. It's kind of choice of each entity, how they do it.
Push 1 to
But
proceed
generally
to the
don't allow
conference
comment on
bridge.
things that are on
Push
the
2.
agenda. They usually comment at the, like,
Welcome to the
prior to it
conference.
being on the agenda, the comments taking
Your
place. I know
pen
the
does
county
not
commission
match a
does it that way
conference.
as well.
Please try again.
Mr. Laval.
The county commission does public comment at the
Please
beginning
continue entering your
on
PIN
items
and
not on
confirm
the
your entry by
agenda,
pushing the pound
and then
key.
citizens can sign up for any agenda item and then speak on that specific agenda item. We do it for 3 minutes.
Colleen, are you back on? I think I heard something.
Colleen, can you hear us?
Colleen?
Okay. Well, so right now we have a motion. We don't have a second. We have a motion on the floor to move our
Maybe
public
we,
comment up to below consent agenda
Yeah,
items.
would you mind doing this at the next meeting when Colleen can be here? Like having it as an agenda item for public comment?
We can do that.
Yeah, I just don't want to do anything without
Right.
the
I think
attorney here.
we should have legal involved. Okay. So you want to withdraw your motion, Ms. Chia?
Yeah, I'll withdraw it and request that it's on the agenda.
We'll put it
for
on the
next
agenda for
meeting.
next month, correct? So make sure staff gets that. Thank you. All right,
And
so.
I had one other item
Okay.
also. Thank you. So we had a presentation on the provider surveys at the last meeting as well. And I had asked Mr. McCurrack to provide me with the raw data that was done in the making of that survey. And I received that raw data information and have had a chance to go through most of it. And I have great concerns that the report that we received was not reflective of what the providers had to say in that survey. I think that we really need to take a hard look at all the narrative comments that are in there and really address that and hear these providers, because I think it paints a picture of a much bigger systemic problem than what the report we received did. So I would like, is Colleen still on or no?
She can't hear right now. I'm trying to.
Well, I would recommend the board, so I requested that, I would recommend the board, if you're interested in seeing the full data and the full scope of what was said by our providers, to get a copy of the raw data and review it yourselves. I think it's incumbent upon us to really listen to our providers and understand what's going on, because how are we gonna fix any cultural or systemic problems if we aren't actually paying attention to that and listening to what they have to say, instead of just whitewashing it and saying, oh, well, everybody checked satisfied, so it's fine. A large number of them did check satisfied, but the real information for me was in the comments below. They might say, oh, well, we appreciate our relationship with JWB, this and that, but, or however, and then they say the comments that I feel are the more telling or the more important for us to hear, and those are the types of things that I don't think were well reflected in the report. So that, I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, so basically you're just calling the doctor out and saying she didn't do a good job as the doctor doing that, that's what she does. So maybe we should have her back if you have questions for her, maybe put you in contact with her.
I don't have questions, I just think the board should be aware that they might want to see that raw data for themselves and read it for themselves.
Okay, because I mean, we can arrange to have her back. I believe that data is from past, it's not from present or future. So it's looking backwards and not looking forward. So that does change perspective of how that probably is looked at as well.
Well, the narrative comments also, some of them state the time frame that they are talking about.
Okay,
So I just recommend the board read it and make up your own minds about what's actually in those provider surveys.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, moving on to our last presentation, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development proposed changes. And Karen Burgess, our CEO.
Hello again. So we thought that it was important. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is proposing some significant changes that are due to or could impact children and families in this community. And we thought it was a good idea to begin that conversation, especially as you're beginning to talk about strategic planning and some of the programs that we currently fund. We have here this morning Sherry Holzbacher from our Homeless Leadership Alliance of Pinellas, and she can speak to the proposed changes and how they may impact our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time to be able to present on this. I'm Sherry Holzbacher, Homeless Leadership Alliance. I'm the CEO as of October 1st. And before I get started, I just want to say that I was in Franklin, Tennessee, middle of nowhere in Middle Tennessee, and we had Mary Armstrong up there. We were talking about Healthy Transitions program and how to sustain it financially, and had lots of different providers together. I was overseeing adolescent services for the largest behavioral health center system in Tennessee at that time. And she mentioned the Juvenile Welfare Board and the great work that was being done. And it just was a fortunate coincidence that, I don't know how things happened, but about 6 months later, I ended up in St. Pete. And so since then, I've been able to work with the JWB around child welfare and behavioral health service integration. Now, in this role, of course, we have Janine as part of our COC board. We get a lot of very good support from the JWB that we are very appreciative of. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the work you do in the community and for and great staff. So all that work and for families and children. And so that leads me to what HUD, the U.S. Housing and Urban Development federal agency, does is looking at right now, and some major federal funding shifts that are happening with new priorities that are taking place. Last year, so typically every year, the COC, the Continuum of Care that deals with crisis homelessness services, we go through a process where there's a local competition with all the providers, and people put forward their applications, and we submit a consolidated application on behalf of the COC to the feds. And then the feds will award, and typically they would award renewal projects and maybe some new projects as well. And Pinellas has been very fortunate to have all of our renewal projects funded this last year, plus some additional funding came down. So we were able to increase during our last round last year about $500,000 from what had been doled out before the prior year. This last year, so it was in 2024, HUD came forward and said that this would be a 2-year process instead of the annual. It takes a few months, at least 2 to 3 months to go through the whole thing. During hurricane season typically too, so that adds to it. So they were going to allow us 2 years to allow for some planning and just renew the contracts that existed. And that included contracts for the HLA, for our homeless management information system, coordinated entry, and some planning. But that's not really the point of today's conversation. It's more around the other projects, the permanent housing projects, which are 74% of the whole portfolio, the $6.5 million that we brought in this last year, going to BOLI and CASA for families and individuals who are fleeing domestic violence or are, in BOLI's case, with permanent supportive housing, are serving folks long-term supports who need those supports in order to remain housed, who do contribute to their housing as well based on how much their income is, who have disabilities and have experienced chronic homelessness in the past. And so it's a good model for ensuring that people who will need those supports may have severe and persistent mental illness, continue to get those and remain housing and don't end up back in our crisis system. So with the shifts that have happened, HUD announced a few months ago that they were going to put out this notice of funding opportunity this year anyway, because of new priorities. And so that was released in the middle of November. We were given a 2-month timeline, which is very compressed, especially with the holidays. It's since been withdrawn as of last week. And so they're working out some, it's under litigation right now. They're working out some revisions that they're going to put out. And then we expect to have that NOFO drop again, but we don't know when just now. Some of the changes, though, regardless of any revisions that are made, we know that even before the NOFO came down, that there were going to be cuts to permanent supportive housing, that they were much more emphasis was being placed on more short-term crisis supports. So like transitional housing, up to 2 years of housing assistance with treatment and services required, and that permanent supportive housing was going to be pulled back and more focused on the elderly and people with physical disabilities. Right now, BOLI is, all of our permanent supportive housing projects typically focus, there you have a lot of people with, like I said, mental illness. Some people may have substance use disorders or co-occurring disorders. And so the NOFO, when it came down, we knew to expect a permanent supportive housing cap. When it came down, it ended up covering all permanent housing projects that we have. So that includes BOLI's permanent supportive housing, CASA's rapid rehousing, which is a short-term program to get people into their own leases and with some supports, and then they can carry that forward and get them going and remain housed. When it came down, that was one surprise. The second surprise was that was a 30%, so there was a 30% cap. So that's $1.9 million out of, before it was 90% was available for non-competitive renewal funding. So it's like about a $4 million shortfall. So 30% is non-competitive with HUD still able to pull projects as they deem. And then the rest would be competitive against the rest of the nation. So typically in the past, we could anticipate to have 90% of what we were putting out there to be funded, and now it's at 30%. The cap was also placed on permanent housing, so the most that we can put out there is that $1.9 million for permanent housing, and which could straddle into that competitive area, and that would significantly reduce, again, millions of dollars taken away from that. Since that came down, we, HLA, the providers, funders, especially the county, the city of St. Pete, have been together. I know Janine has joined in on these conversations as well because she's on that council, have come together, and we've been trying to do some strategic planning, looking at maybe how to backfill some funding, and the different municipalities have been really involved in that. But there's still just so much uncertainty. And so the implications are that right now, since we don't have, since the NOFO's been withdrawn, we were in a process, it was stopped, it's under litigation. Previous experience with other types of funding that are coming down from HUD that involve the COC program have been under litigation for a while, and awards have been withheld for quite a bit of time for that reason. We don't know when the funding will be available. And with permanent supportive housing, it becomes a snowball effect if someone ends up on the streets again or is moved around. I mean, just thinking being displaced or being moved and transitioned into other types of housing. You're in one place, and that disruption for families and children can be pretty significant. The uncertainty is traumatic right now. And so we need to look at ways to, and we are, to just get everyone together in the community to really support and make sure that these families stay housed. It's going to affect hundreds of people. There has been some work done. I mean, Kevin and Lariana can talk about that specifically, but that is where we're at right now. Withdrawn, NOFO, lots of uncertainty, and no contracts. I know that in the beginning, so as far as contracts go, we will start to see the impacts at the end of December 31st. January 1 is when one contract ends, and with no guarantee that there will be a contract coming forward over the spring or summer.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Would you happen to know what's the impact on children, on families with children? Do we have a number, a rough idea how much that is, or how many children will be affected by this?
So we know hundreds of people. I have 89 families is the last number that I have at my disposal. Yeah, or I'm aware of. In stages.
By permanent supportive housing, do you mean people who are getting subsidized for their rents or house payments, like Section 8 type housing, you know, would have been the old term?
They are subsidized for housing assistance, but they also receive a lot of services and supports. And most people who go into permanent supportive housing do get supports. They may get case management, treatment, and other services to make sure that they are doing well where they're housed.
So you're talking, because I just was trying to, I was listening, but it sounded like there was two distinct lanes. There's the permanent supportive housing, and then there's one-time funding to help people get into homes or into housing?
So the rapid rehousing, which is a different type of project, this is for people who are literally homeless, and all the definitions of homelessness that exist. Literally homeless in our case, means living in a place not fit for human habitation or fleeing domestic violence. And so for the rapid rehousing projects that are funded, that is through CASA, that is for survivors of domestic violence. And it is typically a 3 to 4 month program where services are provided, a place is located, the assistance is given to make the lease, the monthly payments, and then it is turned over to that person to continue on. So it could go from 3 to 4 months. Rapid rehousing is able to go up to 24 months, but in this case, it is not that long.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, I believe we have some of the CEOs of some of the programs. So Kevin Marone from BOLI, CEO at BOLI, Lariana Forsyth from CEO at CASA, and I think April Lott from Directions for Living, who want to speak on this issue. I'll take your.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the few minutes to speak on this issue. I'm Kevin Marone, President and CEO for BOLI Centers. Thank you for your question about the housing. Permanent supportive housing is all wraparound services. So there's staff on these apartment locations. So this is not just rental subsidies. This is rent with intensive wraparound supports, people going into the homes, working with them on all kinds of issues. So I just want to differentiate that model from just a Section 8 voucher or housing voucher. When it comes to the impact right now with the COC fundings for BOLI, there are 89 family units in my permanent supportive housing program. 75 of those units are funded through the Department of Housing and Urban Development Continuum of Care dollars. And then in addition to that, there's another 30 voucher units also funded by HUD. The services are not funded through HUD, but we do wrap around those services through other state funding to ensure those families also get those services. Total, it's about 128 children in all of those programs. 50 of them are 5 years and under. So that's the kind of gravity of impact. My family supportive housing program contract ends February 28th of 2026. So I will not have a contract with HUD as of that date. I am working with DCF. I'm working with Pinellas County on some backfill money to get us through the time period in which HUD is having, but effectively as of February 28th, I do not have a contract with HUD, and we don't even know when the application with HUD will be in place. So we are trying to, it is an urgent matter in the sense of trying to secure housing for as long as we can until we have a clearer picture on what is happening with HUD. Happy to answer any questions that you might have on that.
That was helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to provide a little more information. My name is Lariana Forsyth. I'm the CEO of CASA, the Domestic Violence Organization in Pinellas County. We currently have 4 contracts through HUD that we have acquired over the last several years. Some of the projects are in line theoretically with what the information is that we have. It's called transitional housing. We own properties where we're able to house people up to 2 years. Theoretically, those programs would qualify. We have one that's in place and one that is being built up in Clearwater. The rest of the programs are what are in jeopardy, and the majority of the funding that we do get from HUD. Last year, we housed 906 people. 345 of those were children. And the primary product that we house people in is called rapid rehousing. And the way it is used is we provide a deposit and several rent payments to be able to quickly rehouse somebody into their own apartment or house. Remember, there's a lot of financial abuse and domestic violence, and so they may not have clean credit. They may not be able to get those things on their own. So that's where we assist with that. The product called rapid rehousing, even though it is a quick intervention to get somebody safely housed, it is considered by HUD to be permanent. So it is in the same category, even though it's quick, it is considered permanent, and that is what's being removed theoretically from the applications to move forward. And that is the bulk of what we do. So the majority of those 906 people that we were able to rehouse last year, there would be no vehicle to rehouse them in the future. So that is the severity for CASA. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning, April Lott, President and CEO at Directions for Living. I also serve as the secretary for the COC, the Continuum of Care for Pinellas County. I am also the co-chair of the Providers Council. I support everything that you've just heard from both Kevin and Lariana. I do believe that this issue is urgent. While the NOFO has been pulled, we do anticipate that the NOFO will continue to have the thresholds that were already released, which is 30%, which means that we will impact hundreds of children and their parents. I also, though, wanted to speak on Directions for Living has the Family Works program, which started out of the city of St. Pete in a handful of zones that the city of St. Pete had identified with the highest risk of homelessness for children. And that program was then expanded through the Pinellas County school system. Those funds then were expired, and several years ago, the Juvenile Welfare Board asked that we continue that countywide rapid rehousing program, which we did. And then a couple months ago, this board took action to reduce that funding as of March of 2026 by $450,000. That program will end, except for the city of St. Pete. And so I do just want to say that these changes that are being talked about here, when we combine them with the rapid rehousing for children and families that will end in March 30, 2026, because the funding has been removed, there will be an additional challenge. So whatever numbers we're hearing right now will be increased significantly because those funds have been reduced as of March 30, 2026. So I just want you to have that information for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just want to say, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just want to say thank you all for the information you provided, and I think that's extremely important, April. Thank you for bringing that piece of it up as well. It's a difficult time, and I think our board needs to understand what the impacts could be, and I would request that we as more information comes available, to bring this forward to the board so they can make a conscious decision as we move forward as to what type of support, if any, that we can do to help in this space. But again, thank you all for taking the time to bring this to our attention.
Yes, thank you very much. Any comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to have to leave, but just want to wish everyone a very happy holidays and a happy new year, and I look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Okay, thank you. So you got his report is in your packet. Anything on the information items anybody wants to bring forward?
Chief Milliken, I do have one public comment card.
Okay.
It's Miss Nikki Butcher of the YMCA of Greater St. Pete.
Good morning. I will only take about 30 seconds. I just simply wanted to introduce myself. I am Nikki Bucher. I'm the new president and CEO of the YMCA of Greater St. Petersburg. I've met a few of you already, and I replaced David Jezik. He retired after over 40 years with the Y. He sends his love too. I think he's having a hard time separating, but I'm excited to step in here. I come from Central Florida. I've been with the Y for over 20 years in Central Florida. Prior to that, I worked in child welfare with the Department of Children and Families in Tallahassee and Central Florida as well. So I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you for your continued support of our organization, and happy holidays. Just want to introduce myself.
Thank you, Nikki.
Welcome.
Okay, anything on the information items anybody wants to bring forward? Seeing Mr. Bartlett, if you would give us the anniversaries.
All right, we got 2 anniversaries for November. In Elaine Melchiotti, 3 years. Did I say that wrong? And Gloria Rosario, 4 years.
All right, thank you. Congratulations and thank you very much. Open agenda. The board have anything else to bring forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll adjourn. Melissa, you have something? Okay. All right, we'll do adjourn.